Not only was he a Boy Scout, but he was in something called the Order of the Arrow.
It's like the one secret in my life I've kept for a very long time.
Wow. My friend is being groomed by a bunch of Indian men. All right, so listen, I want to ask you about something because you were a Boy Scout growing up, right?
I need to preface that I saw this listed on the thing of stuff that you might want to talk about, and I'm telling you right now, I can't give you too much information. I know it's abysmal, and I'll explain why I can't, but I'm telling you right now, don't get your hopes up for me to just completely divulge what this is and what goes on to you.
All right, okay? Well, listen, here's what we're going to talk about.
It's like the one secret in my life I've kept for a very long time. So go ahead.
I guess I was a fool to think you would give it up on air. But ladies and gentlemen, here's the deal. When I was growing up, I had a friend, and it wasn't Josh. It was another friend. And he was a Boy Scout. And here's the thing, guys. Not only was he a Boy Scout, but he was in something called the Order of the Arrow.
Yeah.
So I'll give you my perspective on what the Order of the Arrow was, and then Josh, you tell me what it really was.
Okay.
At least without giving away your secrets.
Yeah. Oh, I was a Boy Scout as well, and I was also in the OA. So.
Okay.
So go ahead.
I think you were kind of done with all that.
Oh yeah. I made it to life, and I never did Eagle because I was like, I don't have time. I was too busy with musical theater. I don't have time to do an Eagle project and help like homeless people or something. I'm out. Goodbye.
Right. So the Order of the Arrow, from my perspective. So my friend would tell me all these things that he went through to become a member of the Order of the Arrow. And I thought, wow, my friend is being groomed by a bunch of Indian men and Native American men, and he is getting raped every weekend in the woods. That is what my understanding of the Order of the Arrow was. So he told me, and I swear to you, Scout's honor, if you will. He told me that they took him in the woods, in the dark. They gave him a couple of things, and they said, "You're on your own, kid." And he had to literally survive in the woods by himself. And then he said, Native Americans came out of the woods, and he couldn't tell me anything else. And I said, "You're getting raped." And he said, "I'm not, but I can't tell you what we did." So what is the Order of the Arrow?
So it is basically a honor society within the Boy Scouts, right? So you have to get to a certain rank already in Boy Scouts. I think you have to make it to first class or something. I forget the ranks. I don't know. I haven't been a Boy Scout in 37,000 years. But you have to get to a certain rank. And it's basically an honor society for people and a leadership role for people within Boy Scouts that basically serve as leaders for their troops, because usually it's troop-based. However, I can go a little inside baseball with you about what's required. It is basically, for lack of a better term, an honor society within Boy Scouts that you get extra leadership responsibilities. They're supposed to be troop leaders, older guys that are like leaders. It's great for service. You have to attend like certain meetings and things like that. But what Alvaro is telling you is not wholly inaccurate here. Oh, I shouldn't use his name maybe, but.
So you got raped?
No.
Okay.
No, there's no rape.
I'm using that word too loosely, by the way. I apologize if I'm offending anyone, but
you have to
molested.
No molestation. Okay. There is something called the ordeal that you have to go through.
All right. I've heard of this, and this is where my mind goes, you're getting raped.
Yeah, I understand. First of all, there's definitely cultural appropriation going on. Okay, so let's just get that.
At these meetings?
Let's get that completely, at specifically the ordeal and some of the... Now, there's like a general, like, the OA is an officially sanctioned, like, thing within Boy Scouts. Like,
Is it just our region, or is it nationwide?
It's nationwide. It's like a nationally sanctioned thing. Like, the OA is the thing. It's fairly selective, but it's usually facilitated on, like, a troop-by-troop basis, so very locally. But, so like the traditions that are held might differ slightly. once you actually become an OA member, and I'm sure there's a lot of cultural appropriation going on. And
So we're
so,
talking white guys wearing headdresses and.
oh yeah, for sure, 100%, including in my experience, 100%.
So the Indians, the Native Americans that came and visited our friend in the woods, could have just been his uncle.
Oh, they
his
absolutely were.
dad.
They were white dudes. Yeah, that's 100%.
Okay, all right.
The OA was founded by a white dude.
Oh,
Now, I forget, but
was
we
the Boy
learned.
Scouts? Were the Boy Scouts founded by a pedophile?
I don't know. Were they?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Master.
probably. Anyway, it's based off of some like northeastern American, Native American like tribe, and I forget the specifics. Like I said, it's been a million years. I don't really remember. But anyway, so you have to do this thing called the ordeal. One of the things in the ordeal is having to sleep alone in the woods. So there's sleeping in the woods alone, and there's a couple. Do you want me to go into it? There's a couple different parts here.
I mean, if there's any entertaining parts like sleeping in the woods, like yeah.
I'm trying to remember. So I mean, there's like 4 requirements that you have to do. Sleeping in the woods is one of them. I mean, you're not really sleeping in the woods because it's usually happened with other people, so like they weren't too far from you. In my experience, I think I remember like it was like middle, like dark in the woods, and they took a bunch of us out in the middle of the woods and separated us. But like when we woke up in the morning, like we were only like a couple hundred feet from one another. Like it wasn't really, it wasn't really that bad. You had to sleep alone in the woods. You were fed smaller portions to eat. Like part of it was like mind over matter thing, so like you wouldn't get full portions of food, or like you'd only eat like once a day or something like that for like the course of like a weekend or something. Like it wasn't that bad. You had to sleep in the woods, smaller rations. Oh, you had to take a vow of silence for a day, so you couldn't talk for a day.
And would you do this outside of it, or would you do this at home, or would you do
No,
this like
it was like you had like a weekend where you went, usually at summer camp, where you had to go do the trials or whatever.
Now, I remember our friend would take the vow of silence and do it at home.
Not in my experience.
Okay.
You had to do it. I remember it, at least for mine, they had to do it in one like 24-hour shot.
Interesting.
So you couldn't talk. And then I think the last part of it was just like service. Like you had to do like service, like helping, around camp, or like going on a hike, or like something to help like the campsite and the rest of the group members or whatever. So it really wasn't too bad, to be honest with you. And then you had to wait like a couple of weeks or something, and then there was the induction ceremony, which is, where things get abysmal. And then you had to attend meetings. But like the thing is, dude, people were so abysmal that were in it, especially the people that were running it, that they treated it like a cult, right? So like you had, whether in your troop you had OA members, or when you went to summer camp, you always had like full OA meetings, and everybody treated it such secrecy to people that didn't know, like other scouts that didn't know, to try to scare them or whatever. And like sometimes, like, I mean, in my experience at least, like some hazing stuff was involved and things that probably shouldn't have been, and definitely weren't sanctioned. So it might, depend on like a case by case basis. But that's pretty much it, dude. I mean, it's really actually not that interesting.
Right. But when I'm a kid and my friend tells me he had to sleep in the woods alone and had to be quiet for a day, and then Indians came out of the woods, I go, oh yeah, well, something happened here.
Right.
And then he won't tell me about it for like 10 years,
Right. And a part of it too is just to scare people, I think, or like whatever. So that's pretty much it.
Interesting.